Welcome to the Edge of Casual. This is Verso, and today I'm looking at the game Mutant Year Zero. This is a slightly older game, I guess, if you consider 2018 older. And it's an RPG, tactical strategy RPG. It's based on a tabletop RPG from what I've read on Wikipedia. I'm not playing it live today. This is just it's a recording. It's something that I did maybe a couple of months ago before the video card on my computer died. I was playing it pretty regularly. I was getting really sort of deeply into it. And then, yeah, the video card died, and I didn't get to play. Didn't get to ever see it to the end. But I did have this recording. I just kind of wanted to take a look at it, maybe to get myself sort of back into the mood of playing the game. And I think the game might have been one that slid under the radar for most people. Flew under the radar, I should say.
Come on,
and I kind of thought maybe some other people might appreciate getting a look at this as well. So I'm just going to look at the first 15 minutes or so. It's sort of like the introductory chapter.
Want to see annoying? I can show you annoying.
You play through that kind of teaches you the game mechanics and teaches you not just the mechanics, but the theme, the idea behind the game.
Yeah, you only told me that 9,000 times already, Borman.
So it is a tactical strategy game, as I mentioned. It's sort of similar to XCOM 2, if you've played those games.
Look at this. Beautiful.
As my video glitches out a little bit here from the old computer. But anyway, it's similar to those games, but not really. If you come in with the mindset that you would have from playing a game like that, I think you're probably destined to fail here. So the idea behind Mutant Year Zero, well, I should just say, before I even get into that, just a little bit of the background, the world background. You're living in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Your characters with which you start are Borman and Ducks. They are mutants, kind of animal-human hybrids. For the most part, you don't see a lot of animal characters. This is not a prequel to Animal Crossing or anything like that. It's pretty much just your player characters, and the reason for that is actually posed as a mystery throughout the story of the game. But I never got to see the resolution to that, and I wouldn't spoil it even if I did. Most people are either humans or ghouls, whatever they are. Sometimes you'll fight mutated wildlife, that sort of thing, but there isn't really a ton of that. And beyond that, there are other strange characters like telekinetics with giant brains and that sort of thing, and other strangeness. Getting back to what I think is sort of like the theme of the gameplay, is that you are meant to take a very measured approach to any sort of combat situation. So you see here that you have the ability to kind of move in, and as long as you remain within stealth, you have the ability to move in and out of combat before actually making your first attack. And the goal is to really get those high percentage shots, like you saw me with a 75% chance there. Even that was maybe a little bit risky. In general, you almost always want to just go for the 100% shots. 75% to 100. This is not XCOM. You are not going to be taking low percentage shots ever. In fact, you are never meant to really be engaging in a blow-for-blow combat situation. So there's no real outside of combat healing in this game. Like you can't go to the hospital and just heal up if you totally mess something up and your characters come close to bleeding out, or you just barely manage to scrape by, but all of your characters come out kind of wounded, almost dead. You're going to be kind of screwed, just being honest about it. So there are health packs. Obviously, you can use them in combat and outside of combat where they provide you a little bit more benefit. But really, you're not supposed to be using them at all, because any combat situation into which you enter should be one that you are certain you are going to win. Probably almost all the time before your enemy will have a chance to attack you in return.
They're getting closer to the Ark every day. Something's up, Borman.
So to that end, you really want to prioritize stealth and stealth attacks, stealth weapons, and leveling up those weapons early on. At the beginning of the game, you really just have the one. Dux has his crossbow, and he's going to be leading you off in combat most of the time, and then you'll follow up with Borman, who can basically seal the deal, I guess. And you would think that looking at these two that there might be sort of classes similar to other games where you've got like the sharpshooters and the heavies, and to some extent that's true, but it's also not true. The characters are all sort of unique. Through leveling up, you have the opportunity to assign them specific mutations that will sort of gear them up toward engaging in the sort of combat style that you prefer. In fact, Borman straight up gets one of the best stealth abilities in the game. It's a stealth charge, which is amazing. It's one of the early mutations. Okay, so this is a segment of the game where they're teaching you sort of the idea of character level, which itself is sort of meaningless in this game. Level 55 character, clearly you understand you're not meant to attack that. They made it pretty obvious. But the main thing that you really need to notice here is the amount of health points that these characters have.
Face is too ugly to beat. No one loves a stalker. Give me the stalkers.
So in any engagement, it's always a matter of how much damage can you muster with your team versus how much damage the enemy can take. So if you know that Dux and Borman can combine 8 points of damage, then you want to make sure that you're only ever attacking enemies that have 8 hit points or fewer. And that's it. And if you can't, then you don't attack that character. Sometimes that means that you have to just leave some enemies alone and then maybe come back later when you've geared up a little bit, or you've got better mutations or better weapons. And that's, to me, a little irksome, because sometimes you forget where you've been or where you left enemies behind. Something I've found is that you kind of have to attack everything eventually. I mean, because you will need like this. Usually enemies are sort of defending some bit of scrap or like a better weapon or something like that, or just for the experience that you would get in order to level up your mutations. And similarly, something that I don't really love is that you have to do a lot of backtracking in the game world. The game world is not huge, it's very constrained. I mean, you can kind of see the borders of it are obvious at all times. But there's no local map or anything like that. So it's not always clear where you've already been. And you do have to really search every little nook and cranny in order to find scrap. So, I mean, that's your role as a character. You are, I forget what they're called, like no, they're not called zone dogs. I forget the term that the game uses for them. But your characters are meant to be like scavengers. They go out into the world in order to collect scrap and bring it back so that human civilization can continue to keep their city running.
There's a cabin up ahead. Definitely feel a ghoul vibe coming off of it.
So we run in, guns blazing?
Too dangerous. If we're sneaky, we can get into a good position. A good position keeps us alive. Turn off your flashlight.
So again, unlike a game like XCOM, for example, you're never really going to be in a position where an enemy is completely outflanked and just cannot get to you in their turn. So if you leave an enemy alive, then when that enemy takes his turn, he's going to come right at you, and he sort of has the advantage over you in the sense that realistically, in terms of the game, he does not need to survive to see the next fight, whereas you do. So he's going to come right at you, right out into the open, whatever he has to do to get you. And you can't avoid that. You're not going to outmaneuver him, not going to outposition. If you leave somebody standing, they're going to come for you. You will most likely take some damage, unless you get really lucky.
Here we go! Rip their hearts! Crush their... Hey! Hear that? Hear that noise? I hear my stomach. Hungry! Kill!
And in point of fact, I actually messed this battle up. You probably noticed that I saved the game a few times.
And you also saw at the beginning of this video, probably, that I quickly ticked and unticked the Iron Man mode. I'm not an Iron Man player as is defined in the name of the channel. I'm a casual player, and even though I like games to be difficult, I don't like wasting my time. I don't have a ton of it. So you wouldn't guess that from the fact that I've spent so much of my time making these videos. But anyway, you will make mistakes. I think it's okay. I mean, the game does not always make it easy to know exactly how any fight is going to go down, but they do make a lot of things transparent that probably wouldn't not be made transparent in a different sort of game. So, for example, the game will show you, for example, what your targeting percentage is going to be at the position to which you're thinking of moving, and you'll see that later on when I go to attack. That'll tell me, if I move here, then you've got a 75% chance of making that attack. Yeah, so you see the cut there where I reloaded my save, and that was just pure stupidity on my part. I sent both of my characters into the shack, and there are like 2 windows in there. I thought that Dux would be able to fire from one of them and Borman would be able to fire from the other, but Dux actually did not have like a vantage point from the other window, and I just couldn't get him around the other character without sprinting, and it was just a disaster. It wasn't what I wanted to show, so I reloaded it.
Take a
No, he out!
So what you'll notice is that oftentimes, so for example, in a game like XCOM, if you were moving your character at all, you would want to move your character to some place where he or she would have some sort of cover. But in this game, not as important, because again, if you attack, that is going to be an attack meant to put an enemy down. So whether you're out in the open or standing next to a wall or something, it really doesn't matter, because if that enemy survives, then he's going to come right at you, right in your face, and blast you right in the face.
The ancients left a lot of...
In other words, you want to kind of front load all of your strategy.
You see something like this. Wonder what these buttons are for.
I wouldn't touch it if I were you. I'm not kidding around. Lay off the button.
What's up your butt?
That's a bomb, all right. They used to call it a boom box. Touch that red button, and it goes boom.
So in the beginning of the game, your main goal is just to get back to the Ark, where you can upgrade your weapons with scrap, or you can buy health kits, that sort of thing. And from the world map, you can actually travel anywhere at any time. So that's a nice thing. You don't always have to like go through every little intermediate stop on the way to a place.
And that's pretty much it. That's Mutant Year Zero in a nutshell. So if you have any questions or comments, or you've played the game and have some thoughts that you want to share, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And in the meantime, as usual, thanks again for coming out to the Edge of Casual with me.
When the ice melted, you said nothing. When the plague spread, you did nothing. When the nukes dropped, you became nothing. At least that's what the Elder says. But cheer up. You'll be happy to know that despite your mistakes, life remains. In a small settlement high above a raging river, people are living and thriving. We call it the Ark. The Ark is humanity's last outpost, a lonely island in an ocean of chaos. Within these walls, we help each other create a new civilization on the ruins of the old one, with the guidance of our leader, the Elder. The Elder tells us we're safe as long as we never leave, because outside these walls lies the Zone, the never-ending wasteland. A mass grave spanning the planet, littered with your crumbling monuments to your hubris and arrogance. What the Elder chooses not to tell us is our food and water supplies are running dangerously low. That's why he relies on stalkers, adventurers who leave the Ark, explore the Zone, and scavenge for precious resources. Stalkers are tough enough to resist the rot, and they got the smarts and the firepower to keep the Zone ghouls at bay. Stalkers have to be more than human. That's me, Mr. More Than Human, aka a mutant. I look weird to you, but hey, you look weird to me. So let's leave it at that. If the Stalkers come back from the zone alive, the Ark survives another day. If the Stalkers don't come back, the legacy of mankind will be lost forever. At least, that's what the Elder says.